The Rape of the Lock, by Alexander Pope. About the author. Alexander Pope (1688–1744) was an influential English poet, essayist, satirist, and critic of the 18th century. Pope gained recognition early in his career with his poetry. His early works include An Essay on Criticism and The Rape of the Lock, both of which established his reputation as a master of satire and wit. Pope's most ambitious work was his translation of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey into heroic couplets. These translations were highly acclaimed and earned Pope financial success and literary fame. Pope's poetry is characterized by its satirical wit and mock-heroic style, where he uses elevated language and epic conventions to mock and critique contemporary society and values. He perfected the use of heroic couplets, a rhyming verse form in iambic pentameter, which became synonymous with his style and contributed to the clarity and elegance of his poetry. Pope's works often critique the vanity, pretension, and moral corruption of English society, particularly the aristocracy. The Rape of the Lock is a notable example of his satire on social manners and values. Alexander Pope's influence on English literature and poetry was profound. His mastery of poetic form, wit, and satire inspired generations of poets and writers, including later Romantic poets who appreciated his technical skill and social criticism. While admired for his poetic talent, Pope also faced criticism for his sharp satire and occasional harshness towards his literary rivals. Nevertheless, he remains a towering figure in English literature and a representative of the Augustan age. Alexander Pope's works continue to be studied and appreciated for their craftsmanship, wit, and enduring relevance to literary and social criticism. His impact on English poetry and satire remains significant, cementing his place as one of the foremost poets of the 18th century. Significance of the title. The title, The Rape of the Lock, is significant for several reasons, as it encapsulates the poem's themes, tone, and satirical intent. The word, rape, in the title is used in its archaic sense, meaning theft or seizure. By using this term, Pope immediately sets up a mock-heroic tone, parodying the serious and dramatic titles of classical epics like The Rape of the Sabine Women. This elevates a trivial incident, the cutting of a lock of hair, to the level of epic drama, highlighting the absurdity of the characters' reactions. The title underscores the poem's satirical intent. By using a term with such serious implications for a minor social incident, Pope critiques the vanity and superficiality of the aristocracy. It mocks how high society inflates trivial matters into grand dramas, reflecting their misplaced priorities and excessive concern with appearance and social status. The use of rape also subtly comments on the power dynamics between genders. The cutting of Belinda's hair is an act of aggression and violation of her personal space, symbolizing the objectification and control exerted by men over women in society. The title, therefore, points to the underlying themes of gender relations and the commodification of female beauty. The title's grandiose and serious connotations contrast sharply with the actual event's triviality, creating a sense of irony and humor. This playful use of language is a hallmark of Pope's style, engaging readers with its cleverness while also delivering a pointed critique. For contemporary readers, the title would have immediately indicated the poem's satirical and parodic nature. The use of classical references and dramatic language would signal Pope's intent to both entertain and critique societal norms. The title invites readers to explore deeper meanings within the poem. While it seems to be about a minor theft, the layered use of rape hints at themes of violation, power, and societal norms, encouraging readers to consider the broader implications of seemingly trivial actions. In conclusion, the title, The Rape of the Lock, is a masterful choice by Alexander Pope, encapsulating the poem's mock-heroic tone, satirical intent, and thematic depth. It draws attention to the triviality of the incident while simultaneously critiquing the social values and gender dynamics of the time, all within the framework of a humorous and ironic parody. Summary of the poem. The Rape of the Lock, by Alexander Pope, is a mock-heroic poem that narrates a trivial incident of the cutting of a lock of Belinda's hair and its aftermath in high society. Here's a detailed summary of the poem. Canto I. The poem begins with an invocation to the muse, following the conventions of epic poetry, but with a humorous twist. Belinda, a beautiful young woman from the upper class, prepares for a social gathering. Belinda is protected by sylphs, airy spirits who guard her beauty and virtue. Canto II. Baron, a young nobleman infatuated with Belinda, decides to play a prank on her. He conspires with Clarissa to cut off a lock of Belinda's hair. Belinda goes on a boat trip with her friends, enjoying the attention and admiration of others. Canto III. During a card game, the Baron snips off a lock of Belinda's hair with a pair of scissors. Belinda is initially shocked and upset but is reassured by the Baron's flattery. The poem humorously portrays the uproar caused by the theft of the lock, treating it as a major event in society. Canto IV. Belinda's friends, the Beau and Belles, argue over the incident and take sides, either supporting Belinda or the Baron. The poem climaxes with a mock-heroic battle fought during a game of cards, where the sylphs and gnomes, earthly spirits, intervene to protect or harm the players. Canto V. Belinda retreats to the Cave of Spleen, symbolizing her wounded pride and disillusionment. Here, she reflects on the fleeting nature of beauty and the folly of human vanity. Ariel, chief of the sylphs, consoles Belinda and warns her of future heartaches. Canto V. The poem ends with a reconciliation between Belinda and the Baron during a dream vision. Belinda accepts the loss of her lock of hair, and the Baron expresses regret for his actions. Pope concludes with a moral reflection on the triviality of human concerns and the importance of maintaining perspective in life. The poem satirizes the vanity and frivolity of aristocratic society, where a small incident like the cutting of a lock of hair becomes a major scandal. It explores gender dynamics and the objectification of women in society, as well as women's agency in responding to such objectification. Pope employs mock-heroic style, using epic conventions to highlight the absurdity of trivial conflicts and social customs. The Rape of the Lock is not only a humorous narrative but also a sharp critique of the values and behaviors of Pope's contemporary society, making it a classic example of English mock-heroic poetry. Critical analysis of the poem. The Rape of the Lock, by Alexander Pope, is a mock-heroic poem that satirizes the triviality of a social incident involving the cutting of a lock of a woman's hair. Pope uses the mock-heroic style to elevate a trivial incident to the level of epic conflict, parodying the heroic epics of ancient Greece and Rome. This elevates the mundane to the level of the heroic, highlighting the absurdity of social norms and trivial conflicts in high society. The poem satirizes the vanity, frivolity, and artificiality of high society in 18th-century England. Through exaggeration and irony, Pope critiques the excessive importance placed on appearance, social status, and etiquette. Pope carefully constructs characters such as Belinda and the Baron to embody different aspects of society, presenting them as both figures of ridicule and objects of sympathy. Belinda, for instance, represents beauty and vanity, while the Baron embodies reckless masculinity and social ambition. The lock of hair symbolizes not just beauty but also social status and sexual allure. Its theft and subsequent trivialization reflect the superficiality and fragility of social relationships and hierarchies. The poem explores gender roles and expectations, particularly through the portrayal of Belinda as both objectified and empowered. Pope critiques the objectification of women while also highlighting their agency within societal constraints. Pope's use of heroic couplets, classical allusions, and witty language contributes to the poem's satirical tone and formal elegance. The rhyme scheme and meter lend a sense of order and balance, contrasting with the chaotic events of the narrative. Beneath its humor and satire, The Rape of the Lock offers a moral commentary on human vanity, the consequences of trivial disputes, and the ephemeral nature of social graces. It invites readers to reflect on the superficiality of their own social conventions and values. The Rape of the Lock, by Alexander Pope, was written during the early 18th century, a period known as the Augustan Age or the Age of Enlightenment in England. Coffee houses were burgeoning social spaces where intellectuals, writers, politicians, and socialites gathered to discuss literature, politics, and society. These venues fostered the exchange of ideas and contributed to the shaping of public opinion. The 18th century saw the rise of a wealthy middle class, often aspiring to emulate the manners and fashions of the aristocracy. This socio-economic shift influenced Pope's satire on vanity, social pretensions, and the trivial disputes among the upper classes. England during Pope's time enjoyed relative stability under the Hanoverian monarchy, following the tumultuous Stuart period marked by civil wars and political upheaval. This stability allowed for a flourishing of arts, literature, and intellectual pursuits. Pope, like many writers of his time, used satire as a tool to critique political figures and institutions subtly. The Rape of the Lock doesn't overtly engage in political satire but reflects the cultural and social milieu shaped by political stability and growing social stratification. The Augustan Age was characterized by a revival of interest in classical literature and ideals. Pope's use of classical epic conventions and references to classical mythology in The Rape of the Lock reflects this cultural revival and his admiration for classical literature. The periodical press, including newspapers and magazines, played a crucial role in disseminating literature, satire, and political commentary. Writers like Pope contributed to and shaped public discourse through their writings in these publications. The Enlightenment brought about a shift in religious thought towards deism, emphasizing reason, natural law, and a less dogmatic approach to religion. Pope's satire often questioned religious hypocrisy and the moral failings of individuals within society. Overall, The Rape of the Lock remains a significant work of English literature not only for its technical virtuosity but also for its sharp critique of 18th-century society, making it a timeless piece of satire and social commentary. The Rape of the Lock reflects the social, political, and cultural dynamics of early 18th-century England, offering a satirical commentary on the vanity, social norms, and moral ambiguities of its time. Pope's skillful use of satire and mock heroic style both entertains and critiques, making the poem a fascinating window into the complexities of Augustan society. Themes. The Rape of the Lock, by Alexander Pope explores several themes through its satire, mock heroic style, and social commentary. Here's a detailed discussion of the themes present in the poem. Vanity and social frivolity. Pope's primary theme in The Rape of the Lock is the satire of vanity and social frivolity among the aristocracy. The poem ridicules the exaggerated importance placed on appearance, social status, and trivial matters. The cutting of Belinda's lock of hair, which leads to a major social uproar and a mock heroic battle, symbolizes how shallow concerns can dominate aristocratic society. Pope uses humor and irony to critique this obsession with superficial beauty and social conventions. Gender roles and relations. Another significant theme in the poem is the exploration of gender roles and relations. Pope portrays Belinda as a beautiful yet vulnerable woman whose value is often reduced to her physical appearance. The cutting of her lock of hair reflects the objectification of women in society, where their beauty becomes a commodity. Belinda's reaction to the incident and her retreat to the Cave of Spleen highlight her inner turmoil and the societal pressures she faces. The poem subtly critiques the expectations placed on women and their agency within the constraints of social norms. Mock heroic and epic conventions. The Rape of the Lock employs mock heroic style, parodying the conventions of epic poetry to satirize trivial matters. Pope uses epic elements such as the invocation to the muse, supernatural beings, sylphs and gnomes, and a mock heroic battle to elevate a minor incident to the level of epic conflict. This technique underscores the poem's central theme of exaggeration and the contrast between grandeur and triviality. Moral and ethical reflections. Amidst its satire and humor, the poem also contains moral and ethical reflections. Pope concludes with a moral lesson about maintaining perspective and moderation in life. Belinda's journey from shock and outrage to acceptance and reconciliation with the Baron reflects a moral growth and understanding of human folly. The poem suggests that while social norms and appearances matter, they should not overshadow deeper values and virtues. Religion and spirituality. Pope incorporates elements of spirituality through the sylphs and gnomes who protect Belinda and influence the events of the narrative. These supernatural beings symbolize the forces of virtue and mischief, reflecting the moral and spiritual dimensions of the character's actions. The poem subtly critiques religious hypocrisy and the gap between moral ideals and human behavior. Critique of society and politics. Although The Rape of the Lock primarily focuses on social satire, it also contains subtle critiques of society and politics. Pope's portrayal of the upper class reveals a world governed by superficiality and social etiquette, where trivial disputes can escalate into major conflicts. The poem reflects the political stability of Pope's time under the Hanoverian monarchy and the cultural shifts towards Enlightenment ideals. In conclusion, The Rape of the Lock is a multifaceted poem that uses humor, satire, and mock heroic style to explore themes of vanity, gender relations, moral reflection, and societal critique. Through its witty narrative and sharp social commentary, Pope offers a critique of 18th-century English society while highlighting enduring human foibles and contradictions.